acting out porn fantasies and becoming misogynistic and sexually brutal and all the rest of it. And back then, and again, time has stood still, the answer from the government is to try and switch off the internet, which cannot happen. It just can't. I've spoken with about 45,000 teenagers throughout Britain, from every rank of school, from the most elite schools to council estate schools behind barbed wire. And the issue is the same. I asked them, if the government introduced these age verification checks, who could get around them? And all their hands go up.
How, though? Because you're being asked to either provide details of a credit card or a third party to prove that you're over 18. Now, you've got a 12-year-old son. Would he be able to get his way around that? And would this not work as some form of barrier?
I don't want to instruct your viewers on how to get around porn blocks, but I'm afraid it's incredibly easy.
Verification question. Look, age verification online is done every day. It's not hard, it's not complicated. There are third-party companies that do this for government agencies at the local, state, and federal level. You're talking about only one data point, a person's birthday. For 13 to 17-year-olds, adding the parental relationship. Companies like ID.me are used by the Social Security Administration or the VA, or they're used by states as politically diverse as Wyoming and California for things like gambling or lottery. Or other kinds of online activity, we do age verification routinely. So it's simply not a serious argument that we cannot do online age verification for social media companies, just like we do in so many other settings in the digital world.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Well, the FSC, or the Free Speech Coalition, has been very busy lately. They are putting up legal challenges all over the place. I expect to see them in the Supreme Court hopefully soon. They already have in Utah and a couple other states that they've put lawsuits against age verification laws. Well, in this video, they've added another state to their lineup of legal challenges to age verification laws and Constitution, freedom of speech. Because the thing about it is, these age verification laws are violating the Constitution. That's right, as I said before, the state age verification laws. You have a lot of states out there throwing these laws that are vaguely written, but they said, oh, we're here to protect the children. The children.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
Oh, we must protect the children. No, what you're creating here is several-fold. One, a violation of the Constitution and freedom of speech. Two, you're going to create a nightmare as far as people getting their IDs, their social security numbers, facial, all stolen by those online. And also, we can't forget about it, they're financial, because basically they're going to be get redirected to sites that are part of the dark web or illegal porn sites in certain cases that there's a lot of malware in there to grab all their information. But this is the politicians, it's an election roundup again, and this is what they're pushing. And some of this is being pushed by morality and media, as I call them. I'm not calling them by their new name. This is what they are: morality and media, the Mormon Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and a couple of people out there, a couple of politicians working with these groups to censor the American public, because they're not going to stop at pornography. They're over, the ESRB is already looking to do an age verification via facial recognition. And that's going to be another nightmare in itself. And remember, they use the word, and this is why they're vaguely, adult content. But let's read into this out of XBiz. FSC files legal challenge to Texas. That's right, it's going to Texas now for age verification law.
Texas has a horror house in it.
Lord have mercy on us.
FSC has filed a legal challenge in Texas over the state age verification law. Texas law requires user to provide identification to access adult content and mandates that adult sites post pseudo-scientific warning labels about adult content's supposed deleterious public health effects. As XBiz reported, FSC filed a similar suit against the state of Utah in May and Louisiana in June. This is a statement from FSC. Free Speech Coalition, the advocacy organization for the adult industry, has filed a legal challenge in Texas over the state's unconstitutional age verification laws. With the laws, FSC has challenged laws in Louisiana, Utah. Texas forces consumers to provide identification information to access adult content. In addition, the Texas law requires that adult sites carry a pseudo-scientific warning labels, similar to like what they put on the side of cigarettes. FSC Executive Director Allison Bowden says Texas is not only forcing sites to put their visitors' privacy at risk, they are forcing them to broadcast misinformation and pseudo-science about sex and sexuality. We are standing up not only for the rights of adult businesses and creators, but for the rights of adult Texans to access legal content in the privacy of their own home without having to submit to surveillance or propaganda. We can all work to keep minors from accessing adult content, but allowing the government to dictate what information adults can see is unconscionable and unconstitutional. And that is 100%. See, the thing about it is, folks, you guys watching on here, what did we learn during COVID? That basically the government can dictate to social media, we know this, hearing from places from Elon Musk, that the government has told these social media platforms that if there's any, as they say, they call it opposition, but any questioning of the information, which that should be, we should be able to debate in a proper atmosphere if something we disagree with. That is the form of freedom of speech, is that I'm allowed to question if it's something, whether I'm crazy or not. It doesn't matter. I can question something if I feel that something doesn't sound right, that something doesn't smell right to the situation. And what has happened is that, like companies like Disney, for example, to offering that information out that basically is not correct to the general public, and trying to monetize from that. Because you have people out there that are putting out these scientific studies. They say, well, we're putting out these scientific studies, that have no backing with the general scientific community. It's very easy to do it. There were a couple of comedians that went out there, put a couple of these together, and were able to get them published in scientific journals. That should tell you the thought processes that it has for a lot of these papers that are put out. They should be always backed by science, by people. There used to be a time that if a paper was put out, you were able to be fact checked by other scientists to make sure it's correct. And if you have questions, if they have questions, they could say, hey, listen, I got a question on this. You know, can we sit and talk about this and see what your ideology of the science is when it comes to this? Why did you think that this was the particular issue or disease, or, you know, that basically in the case of pornography, that pornography is dangerous? Why are you saying this? Because I tell you, there have been plenty of studies debunking a lot of these scientific studies that have no findings. And this includes pornography, gaming, violence on TV, environment, you know, climate change. There have been many different, you know, a lot of people have come forward and said, listen, you're wrong. You're totally wrong, and this is why. And they come forward and say, this is why you're incorrect. And that's the conversation we need to have. Not directed from one particular group, especially a lot of them religious. I'm a Catholic. I was an altar boy. I worked in the church. I left the church because some of the stuff that I saw going on, as far as some of the beliefs and some of the conversations, I just didn't like. I still pray to God. I pray for my meal, you know, thank for my meal. I thank for the life, my family. I pray at night, you know, when I go to bed. I just don't go to church anymore like I used to. Some people said, well, no, that's not being a Christian. God is everywhere for me. But don't use God against what is out in the open, because of stuff that was written back in Old Testament, New Testament days, because what people have done is to not understand the wording. And I've learned this. This is what I've learned in my days in Catholic school and working in the church system, is that the words that were said back then are not the same words we use today. And they try to use the words from the past, saying this is wrong and that is wrong. But the past was a different time period. Different laws, different ways that religion was done. I mean, if you ever saw West Wing, and I'll bring this up. Here's a clip from West Wing, and it's a great line by Martin Sheen when it comes to, you know, when his character is dealing with someone from the religious right on situations like that. Let me play this.
I like how you call homosexuality an abomination.
I don't say homosexuality is an abomination, Mr. President. The Bible does.
Yes, it does. Leviticus
18:22.
Chapter and verse. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions while I had you here. I'm interested in selling my youngest daughter into slavery as sanctioned in Exodus 21:7. She's a Georgetown sophomore, speaks fluent Italian, always cleared the table when it was her turn. What would a good price for her be? While thinking about that, can I ask another? My chief of staff, Leo McGarry, insists on working on the Sabbath. Exodus 35:2 clearly says he should be put to death. Am I morally obligated to kill him myself, or is it okay to call the police?
Yes, that's, you know, the things that that was past. We don't do those things today, but yet people will push that upon you. And they'll say, well, pornography is bad. Pornography's been around since, I guess, cave drawings, because there are artifacts that date way back. And, you know, places like India, they had the Kama Sutra. You know, and people said, well, porn is not art. It's not art. Porn, there's pornography in art museums today. What was considered pornography back then, and now they're considered, you know, works of art. Now, I'm not saying like every porn movie is an art on there, but there are some out there that would be considered a work of art because of basically how they were shot, the content. Yeah, there's sex in it, but the content or the way it was written, what the script was and stuff like that. People say, well, they have scripts in porn. Yeah, they do. A lot of them do. And you're seeing more and more today that, like, for example, the horror industry is starting to crop up pretty well in the porn industry. Because there are companies out there that are making pornography with a story behind it, sort of a horror story behind it. I mean, we used to get the vampire ones, the parodies, like parodies to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Dracula and stuff like that. But now what they've done is they've gone further and to create their own stories to the fact on there. I mean, you have one company, you know, I'll point to this, you know, if you saw this movie, Slither, you know what that movie's about, that horror film. It's a great horror film on that. Do you know there is a porn company that most of their videos are based similar to the creatures in Slither? And they're expanding because they've asked for writers. They're looking for writers. They're looking for people to work on the productions on there. That goes to show how much, and we've seen a lot of, you know, if you're familiar with the company, they have been they've been putting out a lot of videos lately. I mean, mostly you can find some of the free stuff online, like Xvideo and stuff like that, Pornhub. Most of them are shorts, little shorts, but there are full-length movies that they do offer and sell online. But getting back to age verification laws, you know, we said before, you know, and many tech people have said, this is not going to work. The best way to handle this is basically, you know, a lot of the software out there, everybody's got some antivirus program on there. You know, you get the home edition. I always recommend get the home editions on a lot of this. I use Bitdefender, and I get their home edition, and they offer additional tools on there. Some of them are free, some of them you do have to pay a bit, but you can block sites yourself. You don't need the government to do this. This is why a lot of these cases are ending up being, you know, upended, because government doesn't need to get into this, because there's plenty of tools to the general public that the general public can use to block these sites. Even Google has can block the photos of your searches. They have safe search. You know, that's one way of blocking some of the things. And then there are things within Firefox and Microsoft and many other companies out there that are able to protect your family if you don't want your child to see these things. I mean, if you don't put these things on there and don't have the discussion with your child, then, you know, it's literally you've signed the situation to it. It's the same way with video games. If you bought the video game for the child, you know, Call of Duty or one of these hard-end games that have a mature rating on there, you've given the okay. Why do I need to age verify something which the ESRB wants to do? And I've bought the item. I've bought it and given it to my child. I've given the okay already. This is just another form of censorship, control over the internet. And this is coming from both sides of the aisle. You know, you may say to yourself, oh, you must be criticizing the left. No, this is coming from the right and the left on there. And it's got to stop. We have a constitution for a reason. You don't like porn? That's fine. I don't care if you don't like porn. I know I have a lot of my viewers over on Odyssey and on BitChute, especially BitChute, that, you know, they will comment and says, listen, you know, and you can tell that they're very religious. They say, oh, it's a poison and stuff like that. Well, that's your opinion. I'm not asking you to watch it, even though I put these videos out and I tell you stories about this, and you're allowed to, as long as you don't go the way some have gone, you know, as far as their comments go. you know, you don't go crazy on your comments, you know, you could say, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. Fine. There are a lot of things I don't agree with. But if it, you know, if it violates someone's other person's rights, who am I to tell that person you cannot do this? Unless it violates the law. If it violates the law on the books and stuff like that, whereas, you know, stealing, killing, you know, to that situation, then that, you know, goes toward law enforcement. But if it's something that has to deal with freedom of speech, of religion, that is an issue that's close to my heart where it comes to that. And I will fight for your rights as well, for you to be able to voice your opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you take that opinion and weaponize it to run laws and to stifle my speech, that's where we have a problem. But who am I to say this? I'm just a madman with a show. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to share this video. Hit the like, notification bell, and hopefully maybe today's the day I've earned your subscription. Once again, we are on vacation, and we'll be back in September with some great content for you. New episodes of Madman with the Show, Fast 5, and also the return of Madman Cafe exclusively on Rumble. And also, if you want to help support a content creator like me, there are 2 ways to do it. Below is listing in our description. You can make a fast one-time donation, even for a cup of coffee. It would greatly be appreciated. It's listed below. And also, we do have a merch shop, which this month for back to school we'll be offering an additional 10% off. Be sure to use our promo code of summer 10 and get an additional 10% off your next purchase. Thank you for clicking on this video. We'll see you on the next one. And don't forget, support your local content creator.